How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, listen up. I'm getting on a very controversial subject here. I'm going to be discussing why I believe that the BMF belt is one of the greatest things the UFC have done in recent memory for the growth of the sport. So, before I get into this, I do want to say I know like 90% of you are not going to like this video, but if I can change one or two of your minds about why the BMF belt is actually a good thing, then I feel like this video is ultimately a success because I do think it is getting a lot of bad rep for no reason. I think it's just a very big, I don't know how, not even a trend necessarily, just popular in the hardcore MMA community to shit on a lot of different things that the UFC does to try to promote their organization or what have you. So let's get right into it. Honestly, one of the things that I've heard a lot is that the BMF belt is a runner-up belt, and I could not disagree more. I also hear a lot that the BMF belt is giving preferential treatment to fighters that can't get an actual belt, which has some truth to it. But there is a reason why this belt was created, and I believe that this belt is 100% different than a championship belt. All champions are not BMFs, but like everyone that has a BMF belt is a BMF. And I know that sounds a little bit corny, but hear me out. So, let's take a look at like Dustin Poirier, for example. Think about how much he's given to the sport over time, how much work he's put in. And yes, he's lost his championship opportunities, except for his interim lightweight belt that he won back in whenever the fuck he won that. But, he will never have another chance to, or he will, coming up against Islam Makhachev, but I'm already dismissing that because he's going to lose to Islam Makhachev. He will never have another chance to touch gold, really. So, he's given so much to the sport. Every time he goes out there, it's an entertaining fight. I feel like these guys should be rewarded. And they get paid more as well. Justin Gaethje came out and publicly said that he thought that the belt was a little bit corny. However, they treat it like a championship fight. You get paid more. People always bitch and moan about fighter pay the fighters more, you aren't paying the fighters enough for what they do. And then when something comes out that gives the opportunity for fighters to win more money, they bitch and moan about that. Just because they think it's corny or whatever. Why can't you move past your own emotions about the name of a belt and realize the bigger picture? Fighters are getting paid more. It's putting on massive events. I mean, you're getting way bigger events. UFC 300, the people's main event was the BMF belt title. Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. And then there's people saying, well, it would have been the same magnitude of fight even if the belt wasn't there. I 100% disagree. It was made 5 rounds because the belt was there. The fighters were paid more. I mean, fans were more interested in it, especially casual fans. It draws in casual fans. We need more casual fans to get into the sport. We got to draw them in one way or another. And every single time something comes out that's, interesting to casual fans, hardcore fans, all immediately get on the bandwagon to shut it down, shit on it. This is terrible. This is horrible. I don't want this in the sport, etc., etc. You get my point. But let's get into attracts casuals to high-profile fights because, like I said, people are going to bitch and moan about everything. I mean, people were bitching and moaning about UFC 300, for Christ's sake. If that card doesn't satisfy you, I don't know what will. But either way, I think that it adds, a lot of attraction value to a casual fan to know that this fight is going to be insane no matter what. Because yes, it's preferential treatment. Yes, they choose certain fighters, but they do that for a reason so that it can attract a new audience that, say you have a friend that's never watched the sport, if you show them a fight that has the BMF title on the line, that it's going to be crazy as shit. Why is that a bad thing? Just because you don't like the name of the belt doesn't mean that it's a bad thing for the sport. Doesn't mean that it's a disgrace to the sport. Just because there's preferential treatment towards certain fighters I mean, there's preferential towards title shots too, and there's nowhere near as much outrage as to the BMF belt. The hypocrisy in the MMA community is absolutely insane. I mean, am I missing something here? What am I missing? I feel like people just hate it because of the name, because of the preferential treatment, and because whatever else. I mean, I feel like people also don't like it because, they think that it's, just corny in general, the whole charade of the BMF. And I couldn't agree more. I think the name, I think the whole charade is corny. They could have named it something different. The Rock coming out to bring the BMF belt and wrap it around the winner. It's all really corny. I get it. But I can see past that and see the actual benefits of having this belt in the sport. And there was a huge outrage when people figured out that, this belt was going to keep being, fought for in the UFC. Let me get to adds value to whatever card they put it on. Like I already discussed, UFC 300. UFC 300 would not have been UFC 300 without the BMF belt. You cannot prove me wrong on that subject. If Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje did not have the BMF belt on the line, less people would watch it. Less people would even know of its existence. Less people, because it's a title shot. It's for a title that draws in more people. Look at the engagement on any BMF, fight or post or whatever clip. There's way more engagement. This is what helping the sport grow into something bigger and attracting more casual fans. And a lot of fans that we've lost before because they see Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, two veterans that they've known of from a long time, and they stop watching the sport. But this is going to draw them back in because they want to see these two scrap because they know it's going to be an amazing fight because of the promotion that goes with the BMF belt. Like the fight gets way more promotion when there's a BMF belt on the line as well. So not only is it, well, these two guys are really going to go at it, but we're going to give it the same amount of promotion as a regular fight. Because the UFC classifies it as a title, it gets double, triple, maybe even quadruple promotion from the UFC. They put so much effort into promoting a BMF title fight, which just means more money for the fighters, more money for the UFC, more fans engaged in our sport. Let me get to create insane matchups. So many, like I said, preferential treatment. These guys are all the craziest of the craziest fighters in the entire world. I have no guarantee that these fighters would ever cross paths before until the BMF belt came around. And now the UFC is searching out certain demographics of fighters that are, fan favorites, are crazy in fights every single time they go out there. Many finishes, just absolute wars, absolute warriors. The UFC is picking those fighters selectively to put in these title fights, and it's making some of the best matchups we've ever seen. How can you complain about that? I legit do not understand. What am I missing here? What am I missing? Let me know, because I'm genuinely curious what your rebuttal points are to this, because I know there will be some. And it adds pressure on the fighters, extra pressure, because these fighters, they're always going to go out there and be entertaining. But instead of when they have a win in the bag, they're still willing to get scrappy because it's for the BMF belt and they want to show out and they want to give the fans a show. I just think that's incredible. I think that the UFC made an incredible move by making this belt because now these fighters have an extra incentive because they're getting paid more. And if they get a finish, I assume they would get... Max Holloway got a $600,000 bonus, for Christ's sake. They get paid more for finishes, too. Come on. You get championship level pay, paid more for finishes, so the incentive to fight absolutely insane is there. And I just think the whole, this is the runner-up belt, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what if it is? Why do you care that these fighters are getting an extra chance to give something to their legacy? They've given so much to the sport. They've given their brain health. They've given their entire body's health and, maybe even cut some years off their lives to give everything they have to the sport. These absolute warriors that are put in these BMF belt title fights, they've given everything to the sport that they have. and yet you complain about them getting a runner-up belt? Absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Am I the only one that believes this way? I genuinely think that this is one of the best moves that the UFC has ever made in their entire, recent history of different avenues to promote a fight. I believe that this is the best one that they've done so far. So, I mean, I'm pretty much going to wrap it up there. I feel like I got my points across pretty well. But, let me know what you think about this. I'm actually very curious to hear, if you have any opposite opinions, if you have rebuttals for these points, because I'm always open to criticism. I'm always open to admit that I'm wrong. But I do believe that some of these points are, damn near concrete. And I feel like that, people, they just want to hate on the BMF belt because they think it's corny. And I think that's not enough of a reason to hate on something that's giving fighters all these opportunities. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, I would much appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. If not, have an amazing day. And if you did, have an amazing day as well. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.